Yeah, but Corey, this just illustrates just how dangerous the job can be for TTC employees as they manage, million people ish per day getting through the transit system. So this happened just after 1 o'clock this afternoon. Police were called to Dundas station. You can see behind me, we were down in the underground here, and you can see that the station is closed. The crime scene is inside of Dundas Station here that Tommy's showing you right now. One person is in custody, and we do not know the condition of the TTC employee that was stabbed, and we don't know the motive behind this as well. But there is a significant police presence here at this location, and this scene needs to be processed, so I would imagine that this subway station itself will be shut down for some time. The trains are going right through this stop, clearly, as the police investigation continues. No update yet on anything with regards to what led to the stabbing, but again, it just highlights the dangers of the job for these TTC employees. And as you mentioned earlier, it does come just after the announcement was made by the Toronto Police that they are designating officers to particular locations in the subways where data suggests that there is a heightened police presence required. That's what we got for now. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, reporting live, CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan.
Police are investigating after thieves used an excavator to break into a bank in Etobicoke. It happened around 3:15 Monday morning at a bank on Rexdale Boulevard near Islington Avenue. Police say the excavator was used to smash through a wall to reach the ATM room. There's no word if anything was taken. No arrests have been made.
A rally is taking place downtown today to mark National Housing Day. It's a day that highlights the critical issues surrounding housing and homelessness across our country and here at home in Toronto. For more, I'm joined by CP24's Andrew Brennan. Andrew, I know that there have been a number of speakers addressing the crowd there. What sort of message are they sharing?
Well, we have at least one of the members of the Southwestern Tenants Union there. They've been speaking already. There's more people, like you were mentioning, Melissa, that are about to speak. So we can actually ask them to tell us what they're trying to tell the people here, and also hoping that the MPPs that are not inside Queen's Park today, but will be there on Monday, conceivably to vote for Bill 60 in its third reading, what they want to see done. And a lot of it has to do with the pieces of Bill 60, pieces of it being either removed or addressed in some other capacity. We'll bring in now Charlene Henry is with that union I mentioned before, the Southwestern Tenants Union. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And well, thank you. I guess to start off with, when you see the people here, you have, I saw an outreach worker who I've known for years. I've seen Acorn, a tenants advocacy group. There's other tenants unions like yourself. I was thinking of there's a bigger one over there too. There's a lot of people here, and there's a lot of people saying that they don't want this to go through. What's the message today?
The message is that we need to stand up to the Ford government and ask them to kill Bill 60. Bill 60 is an erosion on tenant rights and all tenants in Ontario. And we know that there are hundreds of thousands of tenants living in Ontario that are just trying to make it day to day. And with the cost of living, some are unemployed, some are on a layoff, and some are just getting by. But with the introduction of Bill 60, we're looking at mass evictions, and we're looking at a blacklist where folks like myself who went on a rent strike could be on that list as someone who's a bad tenant, even though I uphold my tenancy and my lease. And we just want to push back against that and kill Bill 60. We need more rights at the Landlord-Tenant Board for tenants, and we also need to have more tenant protections. Rent control, vacancy control, those are all things that we're asking for from the Ford government now. Not yesterday, but now and not tomorrow.
So, well, just thinking a little bit about what is in Bill 60, the big piece that everyone seemingly was upset about was they said they were not going to go through with right now, was ultimately looking at whether outside of rent eviction situations, a landlord taking reoccupying a dwelling, that there could be other ways that someone could be removed from a dwelling without this contravening a lease. That's no longer in play, but you're still saying that Bill 60 ultimately is eroding tenants' rights. What pieces of it are?
It's faster evictions. We know that folks are struggling financially. Folks are working multiple jobs to make ends meet. We know that in Ontario, the price of rent is very high, especially in the GTHA. The rent prices are exuberant, and folks are not making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They're just getting by paycheck to paycheck. So if someone were to have a hiccup and not be able to pay their rent on the first of the month as it's due, they're looking at having to pay that rent within 7 days instead of 14 days, as far as the landlord and tenant board and the landlord serving them with a notice to pay their arrears. And we're asking for them to stay the same, not to change what's already in place, because, as I said, we need more tenant protections. Without tenant protections, tenants have the chance of being unhoused. We already have an issue with unhoused folks all across Ontario, especially in the GTHA. We don't want to add to it. We want to get people more housed right now.
Another piece is looking at how much, if someone's in arrears before being able to potentially go before the tribunal, they would have to, under Bill 60 as it is right now, they'd have to essentially pay half of what is disputed to be in arrears before they would be able to have their day in court. Is that something that you find problematic?
It is definitely problematic. As someone who's part of the York Southwestern Tenant Union, I've seen many tenants who have been told they owe $300, $100, and when we go through the ledger, they owe nothing. So having to go to a hearing, take a day off work, lose pay, and have to pay 50% of that amount can make or break that person's week, month, or year. And we're asking that that doesn't happen, because we've proved, as the York Southwestern Tenant Union, that the average renter who gets that notice, the notice is incorrect. The amounts are not what it really is when we dig and go through their ledger, that they don't owe the landlord anything. And having to pay that amount and then to be reimbursed that while losing a day's work or a few days' work, because sometimes the hearings are a few days long, is ludicrous.
Well, new numbers from Leger and rates.ca finds that nearly 35% of Canadians believe that condos are no longer good investments. That is up 5% from March, when the previous survey was done.
So let's talk more about these numbers this morning. Victor Tran from rates.ca, mortgage and real estate expert, is joining us. Victor, good to talk to you this morning. This is interesting. I mean, condos have fueled so much of the Toronto market for so long, but it now seems to be like remarkably unpopular here. So what do these numbers tell you, especially that jump of 5% in terms of people not thinking condos are actually a good investment anymore?
Hey, good morning, guys. Good to be back. You know, it's definitely challenging for a lot of people entering the market nowadays. We had some FOMO a few years ago. Now it's more about the fear of overpaying. There's a lot of inventory, a lot of product to choose from. So, you know, depending on the type of customer out there, you know, some people are looking for condos, some people are looking at freehold properties. There's still interest in condos because it's an easy entry point. Affordability has improved. But at the same time, you know, we're seeing stats out there with condo values dropping month over month, year over year for the past few years. And again, it's mainly the fear of overpaying.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet, on the flip side, the survey shows that 39% of respondents under the age of 35 would consider buying a condo, as you pointed to earlier, because it is an entry point for owning their first property. So talk a bit about that and why it's still a viable option and could be kind of a buyer's market for this younger demographic.
Yes, I mean, the younger demographic under the age of 35, most won't have a family yet. You know, it can be double income, no kids, or maybe a single person. So a condo is just more suitable for their lifestyle versus someone that's 35 or over. They may be married, maybe with kids. They're looking for a larger space as well, too. So generally with the younger crowd, you know, they're looking for more lifestyle, right? More flexibility, more work-life balance as well, too. I think a lot more people nowadays are realizing that it's not all about owning property as an investment, especially. People are just looking for housing, people are looking for convenience, and especially with the return to work mandates, you know, a lot of people are not into commuting, right, for a good hour or so within the GTA. So staying within the city, for example, or having access to transit, it's valuable, right? I think a lot more people are just valuing time nowadays, too.
Hey, Victor, I think every point you made there is interesting. I'm also curious about that under 35 market in terms of a potential time horizon here. They will be potentially invested a little bit longer in these properties. I mean, we see markets generally ebb and flow, but, you know, you're the rates guy. You've seen that typically markets go in the up direction eventually here, perhaps for these investors or potential buyers under 35. They know they've got more time here. So, you know, Toronto's a popular place. People want to work there, center of business, etc. Is that potentially why you may see more people seeing this favorably, because they can probably buy and hold for longer than, say, someone in their 50s looking to make an investment?
That's exactly it, right? The great thing about Toronto is I wouldn't say it's a world-class city yet. I mean, we're pretty close to it. There's a lot of work to be done. But Toronto real estate is quite resilient compared to some of the other markets that we've seen outside of GTA and even across the country. And, the market will move on. If someone is holding on to a property for 10 years, 10, 15 years or so, the likelihood of property values bouncing back is going to be pretty high. Sure, we've seen some bumps in the road for the past few years, but if someone is planning to hold on to it as a housing and shelter and live in it for a little bit, then I wouldn't worry too much about it as an investment or losing money. Sense. There's a lot of product to choose from out there, a lot of options for buyers as well too, and it's a much more pleasant experience for buyers, right? It's not as a mad rush like we've seen a few years ago. You can really take your time to really shop around and make offers conditional upon mortgage financing, for example. So overall, it's just a better experience for buyers right now looking for a condominium.
Okay, Victor Tran, rates.ca mortgage and real estate expert. Appreciate your time and analysis this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Victor. All right, they are talking bail reform at Toronto Police Headquarters this morning. That, of course, is Toronto Police Chief Myron Demkiw alongside Ontario's Attorney General, alongside several other provincial officials. Let's listen to the remarks here.
Is the third most common charge associated with firearms offenses reflects how frequently individuals breach the conditions of their release. Our efforts to deal with violent offenders on bail have led to the development of the Firearm Bail Support Team and the Bail Compliance Task Force, which has the support from the Government of Ontario, and I will have more to say on that in a few moments. I want to thank the Solicitor General, the Ontario government, for all their support and investment. I will now turn it over to the Attorney General, the Honourable Doug Downey.
Thank you, Chief, and good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Doug Downey, Ontario's Attorney General, and it is great to be here alongside my colleagues for this very important announcement. And I want to thank the Toronto Police Service for hosting us here, and a special thank you to Chief Myron Demkiw for his leadership and his presence here today. Our government has been working hard, very hard, relentlessly, to build a stronger, safer community. Public safety is and will always remain our foremost priority, and that is why, as the latest step in our work to protect Ontario, we're here to deliver on our promise to fix the bail system and keep violent repeat offenders off the streets. I've heard directly from victims of crime, families, police officers, and community leaders who are calling for a bail system that is real, consequential, and protects the public. We need a stronger bail system that puts the safety of innocent people first and prevents dangerous offenders from cycling in and out of custody. We've already taken many meaningful steps to strengthen public safety. Our historic investments are building capacity across the justice system to ensure no violent or repeat offender is ever released back due to space. We've taken unprecedented steps to allocate and appoint more judges and hire more Crown prosecutors and staff and victim service workers. And our government has stood shoulder to shoulder with frontline police services, ensuring that they have the tools and the resources to keep our communities safe. Just this past spring, our government announced the permanent, intensive, serious, violent crime bail teams to ensure dangerous offenders who have been charged with the most serious, violent, and dangerous crimes being held accountable. And we've made changes to the Bail Act to improve the collection of forfeited bail money and bring real consequences to the people who breach their conditions. But we know more has to be done. That's why our government is advancing a comprehensive, tough-on-crime bail reform strategy that will strengthen the rules, reinforce compliance, and keep violent and repeat offenders off the streets. However, Ontario cannot fix the problem alone. Premier Ford and our government have been calling on the federal government to do more for years. But just last month, Ontario welcomed the federal government's step in the right direction by introducing Bill C-14, Bail and Sentence Reform Act, which is something that Minister Sean Fraser brought forward in collaboration with many of the changes we were calling for. They include targeting serious offenses like violent auto theft, break-and-enters, human trafficking, violent assault, and sexual assault. Includes new reverse onus provisions and consecutive sentencing, as well as amendments to the Youth Criminal Justice Act, another thing Ontario specifically advocated for. But there is still more to do. We will continue to push the federal government to close gaps in the criminal code and to ensure communities across Ontario are protected.
Well, joining us now with more on this is Michael Stewart, Community Relations Consultant for CAA South Central Ontario. Appreciate your time, Michael. Obviously, some concerning numbers here. Tell us a little bit more about what stood out in this study.
Thank you for having me. What really stood out in this study to us was the fact that despite popular belief that edibles can perhaps take hours to take effect, we actually learned through the study that those effects can show up at the 90-minute mark. We had participants at 90 minutes who their driving ability was impacted, whether that was maintaining their speeds or being able to stay within their lane. And a third of participants at that 90-minute mark actually were involved in a collision on the driving simulator. And that rose to 44% involved in a collision at the 2.5-hour mark. And even after 6 hours post-consumption, there was still incidents of driving ability being impacted, as well as incidents of collisions on the driving simulator. Mm-hmm. So what we learned from this is that no matter what, if you are consuming edibles, it's best not to get behind the wheel, as those effects can kick in soon and last for quite some time.
I know that these numbers and the study primarily looked at ages between 19 and 30, but I can imagine that there might be similar numbers and results for adults as well.
Correct. More research definitely is needed to look at other age groups. We focused on those 19 to 30-year-olds because that age demographic is the highest risk at participating in dangerous driving behaviors. And as well, they have some of the highest crash rates nationwide. So when looking at this kind of behavior and research, it's really important to start somewhere. And that was an age group that has the most potential for education and awareness, and they are the drivers of the future. So setting them up for responsible driving habits now can help keep them safe for the rest of their lives.
And for some of these individuals, I can imagine that, there's this sense of false confidence when they just chew a gummy that, could potentially taste like a candy and not really kind of understand what's coming towards them maybe within the next 30 to 60 minutes and 90 minutes. And that really poses a danger because, as the report says, a lot of these edibles, they don't kick in until about 90 minutes later. And by that time, the consumer of that edible is already on the road.
That's correct. One of the interesting things that we learned through this study and through a different driver behavior survey that CA South Central Ontario has been conducting for quite a number of years now is that there is this false sense of confidence and a disconnect between those who are in a controlled environment on the driving simulator and those in real life reflecting on their behavior. In that University of Saskatchewan study, we had 4% of participants at the 90-minute mark say they felt safe to drive. So a very small percentage felt safe at that moment. But when we looked at the Ontario drivers who have consumed cannabis and gotten behind the wheel, 78% of them felt confident in their driving ability, despite a third of them feeling high while driving. And I think part of that is there is this it's a split-second decision sometimes to drive impaired. So there's a lot of pressure to either get your car home or to get yourself home or get to that next destination. And sometimes you might overestimate your ability to drive. And we've learned through this study and through other research that there is an impact on driving ability. It's not safe to consume cannabis and get behind the wheel. It is illegal. It's also important to recognize that alcohol impaired driving, we know that message, and alcohol and cannabis impaired driving, they're both equally as dangerous and both come with the same consequences. So we really want to remind folks of that, especially ahead of the holiday season, to make that responsible choice and to drive sober.
All great advice. We appreciate your time, Michael. Thank you. A Toronto man is facing charges after police say that he claimed to be the sole winner of a $1 million group lottery ticket. Well, 70-year-old Alex Perucha claimed the Lotto Max winnings in July, but then the Ontario Lottery and Gaming's forensic team reviewed other claims that it was a group play ticket. The case was referred to the OPP in September. Perucha has now been charged with theft and fraud over $5,000, as well as possession of property obtained by crime. Well, through his lawyer, Perucha denies all allegations and maintains he has done nothing wrong, saying the dispute involves complex facts. Police have also released images of 3 suspects wanted in a downtown robbery. Investigators are looking for these 3 women, described as 25 to 30 years old. Police say on October 26th, the victim was at a concert near Front Bay when she was approached by the suspects and had her cell phone stolen. The suspects fled the area in an unknown direction. Police say the victims and suspects are not known to each other.
Well, Premier Doug Ford could be heard telling a protester in the gallery to, quote, go find a job as they were being escorted out of the legislature. A large group had gathered to voice their opposition to Bill 60. The speaker ordered the gallery to be cleared after the bill was passed.
To actually yell at somebody in the gallery who's visibly upset, and that's not the way we're supposed to conduct ourselves in here. We've got people who do that. You should just, telling somebody to get a job or young people to try harder, or, he's got all these little quips and stuff, but it's totally unbecoming of the office of the Premier.
People are really, really concerned, and I hear it out there every day. I hear it especially, I want to say, from seniors. A lot of seniors in this province rent, and they cannot afford, they are on fixed income, and they cannot afford these increases, and we are seeing them losing their homes in record numbers. I see people out there in communities saying, we see so many homeless people out in our streets like we've never seen before. The government has no answer to that. They're just going to evict more people. And I talk to young families who are lining up, who have jobs, who are lining up at food banks because they're having to choose between paying the rent and being able to afford food these days.
Toronto police have made an arrest in a firearm investigation. Officers from the Integrated Gun and Gang Task Force recovered a loaded semi-automatic handgun and ammunition at a home in the Mount Pleasant and Broadway Avenue area over the weekend. 41-year-old Derek Boyer is facing multiple charges, including 2 counts of possession of a firearm or ammunition contrary to a prohibition order.
One of the most wanted fugitives in Canada has been arrested in Toronto. Nicholas Singh, seen here, has been wanted by the Ontario Provincial Police's repeat offender parole enforcement since May 2024. He was serving a nearly 5.5-year sentence for robbery and firearm-related charges when he went on the run. Toronto police arrested the 23-year-old last night in the area of Bathurst and Dundas streets. He has been charged with 6 firearm-related offenses.